All right. Hello, everyone. Hello, Chris.
Hi. Hi.
Yes. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Great Transition. If you're wondering, Seth is not here with us today because he is very soon on his way on a plane to Israel to
I visit
visit
you.
me.
Yeah.
Yes.
You might
So,
see him, huh?
yes, I probably will. So we'll include him in the conversation, in the flow. Hello to everyone who's already joining us. Hey, Julie and Crystal. I see Yetzi, Michaela, P. Marlin, Southern Sass. All right. Yes. If you're joining in now, let us know where you're watching from. Say hello in the chat, and we will introduce the Great Transition as we do always. In case you're here for the first time, what is the Great Transition? Well, what is the Great Transition? Well, the Great Transition is not a podcast. It's not a show. It's a process a process of transformation that all of humanity is going through. And if you follow the headlines today, it's becoming more and more weird to follow the headlines. I gotta say that. I mean, if you just follow what is happening without getting into politics and commentaries and he said, she said, things like that, just the big stuff, just the big stuff. You see, more and more frightening things like climate change, and there's sweltering hot heat waves now in places like countries in Europe. You see the UN releasing all kinds of scary statements. There's an inflation situation that is soaring and worsening. We saw a whole country collapsing um, economically just a week ago. There's a lot that's happening that, if you just kind of looked at it, you would say there is some sort of an imminent global collapse that is happening. If you put all those things together, there's more. There's all kinds of health crises, and of course economic disparity that's not going anywhere and just worsening. Violence, um, mass shootings are happening more frequently. There's a lot that will indicate that we're heading towards not a good place, put it like that. And then at the same time, again, follow the headlines, and what you'll find is that we read a lot about headlines about people like Elon Musk who want to take us to Mars. We read about new technologies that are developing, Neuralink, right? Maybe we'll be able to connect our brains with to each other, and increase our bandwidth of connection to the internet so that we can overcome AI if that becomes a threat. Electric cars are becoming more and more prevalent. We just discussed maybe 2 weeks ago the first images from the James Webb Telescope. There's new experiments happening in the Large Hadron Collider, and so there's a lot of new ways to treat cancer. A lot of things are happening in medicine, in technology in general, in science. There's a lot of interesting, potentially good things that are happening, but all of that is happening at the same time. And that is what is so weird. You gotta wonder at the dissonance. On the one hand, it appears that there is this multifaceted, culminating crisis that is in the making for a few decades, probably. And we're gradually coming to some sort of a deadlock in how we are conducting ourselves together on this planet. We're faced with global challenges and interdependencies that require us to come up with a whole new way, a whole new strategy of how to conduct ourselves as global citizens, as people who live on the same planet that has become such a small place. And then on the other hand, there's all this technological development, all this scientific progress. The internet became this central place for all human activities. Gradually, more and more activities are going into this one virtual digital place. And so the dissonance is what's really, really weird. On the one hand, there is human potential, there's creativity, there's ingenuity, there's progress. And then at the same time, we are nearly dysfunctional, I would say, when it comes to global management. There is no global management of this planet, and we are rightfully afraid of the idea of globally managing the planet because when we look at our current leaders, we know that at the end of the day, it's very hard to trust anyone in positions of power because of the nature of the human ego. Trust is a very scarce commodity today, right? And so the idea of a world government or something of that sort is super scary, no doubt about it. But on the other hand, we're also faced with so many global challenges that we're going to have to find some way, maybe not a global governance in the sense that we think about a government, maybe in some collective distributed way, I don't know how. But we're going to have to start running this planet, the whole planet, as a global society. It's just inevitable. If you really put two and two together and you connect the dots and look at all these headlines, look at what is happening, we're going to have to be able to run this planet as a whole sometime soon. And that means that while keeping our unique differences and cultural differences and unique traits of every person and every nation and so on, we also have to find a way to direct all of us, everyone, towards some form of an idea of global unity. Because otherwise, it's just impossible for us to behave on this planet as a global society. And so we're going to have to figure out how to do this consciously, strategically, as a proactive educational move in the whole global human network. And how that exactly is going to happen is what the Great Transition is all about. So welcome to the Great Transition. Chris, do you?
We're living in a great
Oh,
transition right now.
yes,
I
we
mean,
are.
it does feel like you're born and your parents don't really tell you, hey, son, welcome to the world. You're living in the great transition. These
Right.
times
Yeah, they don't.
are very special. You kind of got to figure it out by yourself by watching the headlines and putting it together. It is interesting that you said, like, I remember when I used to go, we've talked about it a couple of times where Alex Jones, he really led me through a time in my life where he's obviously a fanatic and has a lot of conspiracies and mentioned the New World Order many times, like it was something that we needed to be scared of. That's
Mm-hmm.
in one light. If you put the New World Order in another light, it kind of seems like, hey, let's get together so we can fix the problem instead of let's get together so we can, you know, control more, earn more.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. What we can say, it's the same kind of structure, where a power structure that's in place, but it's being used completely differently. I've never heard it like that, because it seems like, I will buy that, I will buy into that, but I'm not really going to buy into that,
Mm-hmm.
So you've instilled hope in me. But you're right, there are a lot of things on the news, like recently there's monkeypox. Of course, you mentioned the fires, the what's happening with everyone financially. Everyone's, especially here in the United States, everyone's just counting how much their electricity bill has gone up. It's hard to live. So everyone's kind of has an ear, out listening, like what maybe someone has a good idea, and I liked your idea.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can follow
Well,
that a little bit. But I do want to talk to you about. I mentioned monkeypox, but I do want to talk about, like, obviously it's also the title. Monkeypox, something's happening, and I don't really think that it's completely global now. But the World Health
mm,
Organization has declared that monkeypox is a public emergency with
right.
international concern, right? So for them, it's something. But if you look at the history of it, it came about in 1970, you know, the first cases,
Okay.
small child, Congo, right? And then you look 50 years later, and all of a sudden it's spreading around all these countries, 75 countries, they say, 18,000 cases. So they are concerned that it's, you know, they
That's the
know the disease,
situation
but they're
right
concerned that
now.
it's spreading.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the World Health Organization has declared, I mean, a couple of days ago, I think it was. So it's concerning because it's spreading really quickly.
Right.
And mainly it's men who have sex with men and people who are uh, close in close contact with them, and that's how it's kind of like spreading. That's how they've
Mm.
noticed it's spreading. Of course, with more information, they'll be able to tell us more about how to avoid it or how to take care of it. It's not lethal, from what I understand. I mean, in some cases it is, which is why
Mm.
they do want to be concerned. But sometimes it's also just something that you have to take care of, and it kind of just becomes a burden for the healthcare system to always have to take care of people. Same thing we saw with COVID. So my kind of takeaway from that is it's kind of the same approach that we had before with COVID, where you have people that are like, you know, making sure that they're not getting it, but actually it's making sure that I don't give it to somebody else. So we're kind of revisiting
Mm.
that approach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not really scared of it. I don't know if you are, but that's just kind of
I
what's happening.
what captures my interest here is this World Health Organization now has declared, like you said, a global emergency or something. How is it called? Public health of global concern, whatever
Well,
title
yeah,
they give
yeah.
that. But I'm saying that's kind of that was kind of kind of quick after. I mean, that just didn't just this just happen. You know, I mean,
Right.
we're
Shouldn't they like
laughing, but
slow it down?
it's totally.
Didn't Joe just call it a global emergency like a couple of years ago? We want to go
Yeah,
through that again. Is that something we
that's
want to do?
kind of what's happening. So I mean, we don't like to say on this podcast we told you so, but but Kabbalists uh, have been saying for a long time that our time is such a time where we're gonna see more and more global issues, global challenges, problems of a global nature. And there's a reason for that. The reason is embedded in human evolution. There is a process here that's much deeper and bigger than what we see through the headlines. Oh, there's another thing. Okay, we tend to think about these things as random events, random development. All of a sudden, there's
Randomly
monkeypox.
it's spreading
Yeah,
all over the world.
exactly.
You know,
Random.
50 years ago it was just like this, and all of a sudden, and,
Mhm.
and they're even questioning like we don't understand how it all of a sudden
Right.
appeared, but it just did.
Yeah, and by the way, COVID is also not going away still. Um, the situation is not
Yeah.
over. It's not like we're done with that. So that's what I think is interesting here. We're seeing these global blows happening and more frequently, and
Right.
that is whether we like it or not, it puts us in front of this reality of a single global human network. It's just another thing and another thing, another area of human engagement, whether it's economy, whether it's ecology, whether it's healthcare. In more and more areas, we're seeing that we're globally tied to each other, and that is what's pushing us
Well,
towards a
it is
transformation.
pushing, but you are, yeah, but it's like, okay, yeah, so it's happening here, but it's also happening over there. Like, kind of, so what? That was kind of the
Right.
initial thing when COVID's happening. You're like, okay, yeah, it's happening over there. Fine, it makes sense that it's also happening over there and also happening over there, also to my neighbor. But when you say the word global and everything's like it's a global issue,
Yeah.
um, it becomes more something like what's happening in your family. You know, it may not actually, the globe, it does not feel like your family, but it seems
Mm.
like that's kind of the feeling that we're gonna have to adopt. We're gonna have to take on the feeling of, okay, if we're gonna handle it, then it does need to be like we're handling within a family. And if he's living outside the house, then I can't I can't control it. I can't work with him. You know, if he's
Mm.
out, it's like, let's say if there's one country that doesn't agree to be part of it, then it kind of ruins it for everyone. So this direction where we're all kind of getting on the same page, at least towards diseases, maybe towards ecology issues.
Yeah.
You can kind of see all these little, everyone's kind of recruiting themselves into, like, it starts off in a small group, you know, these people are the ones that are caring about it. Then it's a little bit more, then it's a little bit more. You can see how the whole world maybe eventually could go through this understanding where maybe they
The,
feel that their back's against the wall, but what's still,
the
it's worthwhile,
you know
maybe
what,
not monkeypox.
I want I want to bring this up. I think that when we're talking about some global unity, some form of global idea of global unity, I think that a lot of people might look at that and say, yeah, but wait a minute. Are you suggesting that we should indoctrinate all of humanity towards unity? Is that what you're saying? And because did you come across that when talking to
Yeah,
people
well, you
or
mean, well, I mean, I don't know if you're saying that. Okay, not that exact same thing. No, I haven't heard that. No, I haven't heard that. Because I
oh
don't think I've
really?
ever gotten that far. It's usually just no, not never possible,
Mm.
not going to happen. It
Oh,
never
just
made it to the step of.
so okay, so you're saying you see it more running into the people feel how impossible it is.
That's my experience.
Right. Okay. So let's deal with that first. Let's deal with that first,
Okay.
because
All right.
that's interesting. It's a very interesting thing, I think. You're right. Yeah, it's definitely a common response. Global unity, like what are you talking about? What is this? Some utopia? Immediately, people go to a utopia. Kind of when you say global
Right.
unity, okay, so you want to tell me that everyone's gonna love each other and sing kumbaya and everything will be good and so on. No, that's not what we're saying, because as people who study Kabbalah, we're very aware that our nature is opposite to global unity. That's exactly what every person you'll talk to about global unity will why they will tell you that it sounds
Right.
like a pipe dream. They're right.
Yeah.
They're right. From our present view of the world, from our egoistic prism through which we judge the world and how it works and what can or cannot happen in the world, there's no doubt that such an idea of global unity sounds maybe nice, but for the most part, dreamy, dreamlike, fantastical.
Well, there's no example in history. I mean,
And
what do
there's no
a
example,
person, of
of
course,
course,
it's logical.
of course. However, at the same time, you see that it's also technically impossible for us to continue running a sustainable civilization on this planet without cooperating. So let's go a bit farther from down from this lofty idea of global unity, and let's just talk about cooperation. The Everything that we are experiencing today that we call a global issue requires a higher level of cooperation, whether it's agreements for certain agreements that are required for to handle and curb climate change, the economy, which by all means has become completely global. And if
Right.
I don't think it makes today sense for any economist who considers themselves an expert to say that economies are disconnected and there's no connection between what's happening in one country's economy and another country's. Clearly, we're in the same boat, and we're seeing it all over the world. And today, we're seeing more and more, supply chain issues. It was with the chips for a while, and now with other things. I just heard.
Which didn't go away, by the way.
Oh
I
no,
mean,
it
all
did.
these things,
It
it's
didn't
like,
go
you just
away.
kind of forget
And
about them. They're still there. Yeah, you
dude,
just don't hear about them in the news, but they're
I
still there.
read yesterday a headline that said was kind of funny, but it tells you something, that says that McDonald's are taking fries out of the menu in many countries now. Not that I'm a
Wait,
big,
because of the food
because
thing?
there's not enough potatoes. Very simple.
Wow.
That's the reason. They're looking into all kinds of alternatives now. Now,
Wow.
we can say, okay, come on, that's McDonald's. Who cares? Just some junk food. Great.
Well, what do you mean? It's
We'll eat
McDonald's. It's
less
number
fries.
one. It's the
But
biggest there.
exactly, think about what that means in terms of an issue with supply chain. The war
Yeah.
right now with between Russia and the Ukraine, which also hasn't gone away. Let's not delude ourselves. But the fact that we see it much less on the news and very quickly,
I saw a number. Sorry, I saw a
the
number forty
yeah,
thousand Russian troops. I mean, that's the number that they're releasing, but still, in how many months? You know,
how
so
many
those
months it's been going on right
it's
now? The whole
big.
thing? What is it now? 8 months? How long
6 months,
is
8.
six,
Oh, okay, 8 months. That
six
sounds
months, eight
better.
months, something like that. I'm not sure. I'm right about that, but it's already
It's bad still.
in the happening for a long time, and it didn't go away, and we're seeing more and more global ramifications of that war. Today you can't even have a war quietly. I'm just being ironic
Leave us
here.
alone. We're having a
This
war.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, clearly this is not a thing to actually laugh at, but I'm saying, ironically speaking, you can't even fight with someone in a separated, isolated territory. There is no isolated territory anymore on this planet.
Right.
And so that's what I would say, first of all, to people who would say, "Oh, that's impossible." You're
I
right.
forgot what that's where you were going. Okay. Right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
impossible. Meaning a world government. That's
Yeah,
impossible. Or not a world
a
government.
global
Global unity.
unity.
That's
Yeah.
impossible.
So I'm saying they're right on the one hand. That's a correct. It's a
Yeah.
natural response for us to see it that way. It is impossible with our current consciousness, with our current prism of perception, with our current mindset. It is impossible for us to think about it. And yet, on the other hand, in the same mindset that we're in right now, with our healthy egoism, we can gradually see that we are also not going to be sustainable for a long time into this century if we're going to continue the way we are now, because everything's interdependent. It's everywhere. And so
Saw something.
that's
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I
That's what
no,
I wanted to say
I'm just
to that.
supporting that by regurgitating something else I read, which in the next 20 years, most of the wars that will occur on the basis of fighting for control over water sources. So that's just another thing.
Oh,
Now we have to control the water sources. It's
wow.
like it
How
actually it
oh
pushes you one
man,
way in a global, and one way you become more selfish. It's
that is
extremes.
such a good example. You just said water. I mean, that's the most basic thing. Is there something more basic than that for our survival? Water. 2022, humanity wanting to go to Mars and connect our brains with chips so we can communicate to each other digitally, telepathically, and what not, and all of that.
Cool, but do you
And
have water? Right.
but we might have a water problem. That's what I said in the beginning. The dissonance that we are going to see more and more. There you go, people. You want a Kabbalistic prediction? You got it. You're gonna see more and more um, dissonance between our potential and what we're able to do, and how we can quickly flip things around. There is no water problem. There is no food shortage. There is no actual energy crisis. No, the problem is just how we use our resources, how we distribute our resources, how we effectively use the natural resources of the planet, and how we take care of how the planet recovers and so on. The problem is in our management of the planet. There is no actual issue with water. We can. I've seen. I can't remember the name of the book, but I've read. There's a good book. If I'll remember it later, I'll say there's a good book that talks about what we can do into the future in terms of food and water and all that, and it lays out all of the technological solutions that we already have. It's just that no one is doing them. Vertical farms and desalination and all kinds of ways that we could easily and relatively cheaply do to make sure that everyone has everything. It's not a problem to make a world today, What I'm saying, it might, for those who don't know the details, it might sound controversial or positive thinking, wishful thinking, but it's not. We today technically can make a world easily, relatively easily, where everyone has everything they need, their basic needs. I mean, you don't. Everyone can have water and food and clothing and housing and medicine. You can have a world like that. Now, we're not even going there because there is no concept of global unity that people are in positions of power are actually considering. We're still in a world where we are trying to hoard our resources and take care of our interests, and because that's the mindset we're in right now, that's the consciousness that we're in right now, and until that changes, you know
All
but
it takes,
yeah.
yeah, all it takes is just looking across the street at the neighbor. And if they're not doing the thing that, let's say that we wanted to go for global unity, I look across the street and I don't know, with my eyes or whatever, I can see that maybe he's not practicing that. That's already enough for me to be like, okay, well, I guess we're not doing it. So to get that thing off the ground, just imagine, I know we're talking, kind of, we're exaggerating a little bit, but just to get this idea off the ground, it kind of feels like you'd have to have all these points around the world screaming, let's do this, let's look what's
Mm.
happening. And
Hmm. So for
it's
that,
still just
that's
a
that's
fairy
why
tale.
that's why we need education. That's why education is critical. And that leads us to the question that I wanted to to talk about before
I'm listening.
the indoctrination issue,
Right, that
right?
one. Right, yes, the indoctrination. Yeah.
So, right, so some people hearing us definitely might say, so you're talking about some form of indoctrination. We need to educate all people towards global unity. And
Coerce, but it's no. But when you say
what
that,
would
it's
you
more
say to
like
that? What would
coercing, forcing.
Yeah, it
No,
sounds
that's
like
not
it.
what you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, because indoctrination means when you educate someone towards a certain set of values without allowing them to think about it critically, right? Like removing their ability to think about it in a critical way. So first of all, that's not at all what education is. Education is not indoctrination, and global unity cannot happen with every person's heartfelt participation. That's the whole issue here. So you can't really indoctrinate towards global unity if people understand properly. But let me throw another perspective here.
Okay.
You could also say to a person who's asking about that, you could also say, yes, we're definitely talking about pushing. I'll say a harsh word now. Even brainwashing
I was knowing you were gonna say it. I
ourselves,
knew you were gonna say brain.
ourselves,
Yeah.
brainwashing ourselves towards global unity. Is that what we're talking about? To In a sense, yes. But oh well, but that isn't that horrible? Brainwashing. That sounds like you're taking away people's freedoms. That sounds like, cultish. That sounds horrible and all that, right? But the
Yeah.
funny the funny thing is that this is happening all the time. This is happening all the time. We are constantly being indoctrinated or brainwashed through marketing and advertising and Hollywood and the media, the traditional media, the internet media. It's already happening all of the time to such an extent that it's just happening in order to get us to uh, order something, to buy something, to watch something, consume something, or vote for someone. But it's already
Right.
all the time it is happening. Now, currently, we just agree with it. We agree with it. And the funny thing is, why do we think that ourselves and our adults and our young are addicted to social media, to sugar, to junk food, to porn? Why is all of that? Because there's a constant brainwashing, a constant pressure. We call it advertising. right? But what
That's
is
it.
that?
That sounds like
But
such an innocent word. Like you're saying basically that it is indoctrination, but there's another word for it called advertisement. It
yeah,
sounds like
e-
they're almost being used synonymously.
exactly. And the way we use advertising today is just, for someone to get a vote or someone to get money. At the end of the day, that's pretty much what that mechanism is being used for. So we're not saying anything really far fetched
Outlandish. Yeah.
or yeah, or dramatically controversial here. We're just saying, hey, can we just agree that we need to promote global unity because otherwise we won't survive? Can we just do that, please? Can we just do a
Okay,
little
fine.
bit?
I'll say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll agree. Fine. But we now
Okay.
know that agreeing isn't that's kind of you can't you have to want it, right?
Mm.
So how's a person
Yeah,
in this
that's a
world want
deeper
it?
that's a
If they
deeper
don't
thing.
if you don't want it, but that makes sense that it would happen kind of in waves, slowly rippling, for people to see around them that these people are wanting it. I get that. Maybe it's not even worthwhile to maybe we should just try to maybe it should just happen kind of on its own. No one needs to indoctrinate anybody.
Mm.
It'll just kind of happen to the people that it's important to.
I think it's a
They'll do their thing,
yeah.
and I'll just kind of
To
wait
that,
till it gets to me.
I would say to that promoting global unity, trying to push it, trying to advertise it, trying to make it important. Doing that or not doing that is the choice that humanity will be taking in this century between prospering as a species or just barely surviving with constant pain and conflict. And I
Hmm.
think it's going to become clearer and clearer with this growing dissonance between, oh, what amazing potential we have technologically, scientifically, medically. We have great potential, and yet we are having such a tough life. And I think that dissonance is going to grow to extreme proportions. And it's already happening. Again, that's the crazy things. If you look at the headlines and not just the paper you're used to or the site that you're used to, or, if you just kind of take a 360 panoramic view on what's happening, it is such a cognitive dissonance what's happening in the world right now. It's mind blowing. Yes,
Well, especially
VR,
right now.
AR,
Yeah,
AI. We talked a lot about AI in the last few
almost
months.
every
Why?
show. Almost
Why?
every show. Yeah.
Because this thing is going to change the infrastructure of mankind in a big way. AI and big data and VR. We're going to see a lot of that. Economics is going to be influenced by that. Politics is going to be influenced by that. The medical world, of course, yes,
Wow. Yeah. Right.
but you know, we have all of that potential, and we have a world that is gradually deteriorating when it comes to global challenges. And
Well, there's
everything is,
certainly
yeah,
what?
and everything's becoming global. So everything's going to be a global challenge ultimately.
Right.
So yeah,
Right. And
go ahead.
actually, and one of my favorite subreddits, I know, Reddit is very, we don't get into politics, obviously, but, Reddit's very left or whatever. I just like
Mm-hmm.
Reddit just because it's an organized way to find some stuff. There's a subreddit there called
Mm.
World News. So it's world news. You're getting your world news from everywhere. Some guy posts it from
Ah,
their
okay.
country, and then you're seeing what he's posting. So you're not just going to the Guardian and seeing what they have, or other kind of aggregate services. Um, I saw something that oh wait, first when you're talking about indoctrination, I saw this. Well, it's kind of scary actually because we saw what happened. I don't know, in Iraq. I think it was Iraq when there was the when what was his name? What was the leader in Iraq? Oh God,
Saddam Hussein.
Saddam.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever he took power and they were filming. Did you ever see that video where they were filming and he was basically calling out all the people that were, had said
I
something
lived
about it?
through the Gulf War. Gulf War is it called? I don't know. I don't know if it's called
Right, the Gulf War, yeah, Kuwait and all
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. You weren't here in Israel when
Uh,
it.
No,
When
no,
no,
I was
that
in the
was,
States,
of
very
course.
protected.
But as a kid, yeah, I was here in locked in a in a room with the mask and everything. So I'm
Oh, that was then.
quite
That was
familiar.
affecting you to such a degree.
What do you mean? There were there. Wait, Gulf War is maybe the wrong term. In Israel, there's it's called the Gulf War, but we refer to the 91 war with Iraq. So maybe we're
With
not
Israel
talking
and
about the
Iraq,
same
or the
war.
U. I was just talking about whenever Saddam Hussein was
You know
like
what?
getting into power.
I can't even
It
say
was
who
before.
are all the players because I don't remember. But yes, Iraq was attacking Israel. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
well, there's some history. I'm gonna have
Rockets
to.
and
I'm
missiles.
sure. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, okay, no, okay. So
Come on,
that's fine.
you're
I'm
married to
just
an
talking about.
Israeli. She knows.
Listen,
She
I'm
knows.
getting new
Ask her.
history from her all the time.
Yeah.
New things. It's weird when you marry someone with a different culture. It's like you're always finding out new things.
Right.
So, so there's this video. All this was to say the video, was kind of scary because you're watching a dictator take control of like all the people that oppose him and just taking him out to kill.
Mm.
There was what I saw on the news actually a couple of weeks ago where China has this. They're using this technology. Of course, like you just said, you'll see more technology
Oh,
being being AI, AR.
sorry to interject. It's not. You're not going to talking about the tanks. You're not talking about the tanks in front of the banks. Okay, so we'll get to that later.
No, let's
Okay.
get to it. Okay, that sounds interesting. I was just going to talk about what they call loyalty devices or loyalty
Oh.
software, where they're checking to see they can check your brain waves. They'll ask you certain questions,
Oh
and
my
according to the
God.
questions that they ask and how you respond, they can choose whether or not they can decide whether or not this person's loyal or not. Now, imagine being in that room, and all of a sudden you realize that I'm not loyal according to the test, and you get escorted
Mm.
out and never heard of again.
Wait.
So
So they're
yeah,
already using this technology?
it's been used, I think, just in the testing phases, but who's to say that they haven't already
Right.
considered
And
repercussions for anyone who failed or
so
whatever?
this can say whether I am loyal to you or not.
Right. Well, you mentioned trust, how like trust
Yeah.
is a rare commodity. I think that's how you said it, and it's true because people are like dying to they need the power, they need the control in order to hold on to the little bit that they have left, and those are the means that they're using now in order to do it. When you're saying look at the dissonance, you have all this
Yeah.
technology, and look,
Yes.
yeah. So that's just
Yeah.
it awoke in that in me. I thought it was interesting. Like, wow, people in
It,
China, they should. That's scary. If
it,
you're
it
up high and
is
you're being
it's exactly illustrative of the dissonance because we're gonna have such technology. We already have, but it's going to grow more and more with AI and so forth. Such technology that and technology is such a double-edged sword in our situation. It could be really great or really horrible. I mean, take I don't
right.
know drones. You can do great artistic cinematic shots with a
Well, they
drone, which
always
is
they always say wait till
great.
the
You
military gets
know,
a hold of it, and then
but
yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, I saw this a couple of years ago already. It's not a new thing. When drones were kind of new, there was some academics, can't remember from where, somewhere in the U.S. They put together a video to demonstrate how critically dangerous AI controlled drones can be. Did you see that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
they did it a whole they with a plot and everything. Like, it
Nice
wasn't
production,
very nice
actually.
production.
Who
And
produced that? Was
I
it a government
it
agency?
I don't know who produced it, but I know that the initiative came from academics,
Hmm.
who, but I don't know who produced it. I can't remember. It was a couple years
Scary.
ago, but
It was
scary and real,
legitimately scary and
legitimate.
real.
And you go and you're like, listen, like, look at what's going on here. We can really have such technology in our hands that can, you know, ruin us or help us, and it's up
Right.
to us.
Well, I'm turning on the fan. I'm sweating over here. They also
All
have
right.
they also have I saw recently these drones that are planting trees too. So you have drones for
There,
dropping bombs and
there
drones
you
for
go.
dropping seeds.
Yeah,
It's funny.
exactly.
I saw the U.S. wants to plant um, 1 billion trees because of all of
Okay.
the deforestation that's been happening with wildfires. Look at the news right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned in the beginning. You look in Europe and in the U.S. in Yosemite, there were like how many were there? They always say hectaacres. I don't know what a hectare is. We've talked about it many times, and I always
Well,
have to look it up. 17,000 acres,
mm-hmm.
and they missed the sequoias, so that's good. The sequoias, the huge trees that are like you know
Right.
thousands of years old. So that's happening. Trees are getting burned, like just acres upon acres upon acres of green trees that were growing for hundreds of years, gone in a second. And that's just one little place in the world, and that's happening all over the world all of a sudden at the same time.
Hmm.
They have declared, I think it's the first heat wave that has a name. They call it Zoe. I think that's how they pronounce it, Zoe. I think it was in
Hmm.
Spain that originated, but basically because it's a heat wave that's all over the globe at
Wow.
one point, like you said, take a 360, and look what's happening. You're going to look and see only fires everywhere. So Zoe is a heat wave that they've named. And so, yeah, it was interesting that they're trying to plant 1 billion trees to kind of like try to make up for it. Oh, fine, nature, go ahead, burn it all. We'll take care of it. We've got we have 1 billion seeds we're gonna plant, and we'll fix that problem. No, we'll take care. We'll handle that
that's
one.
that's
Anyways,
I'm laughing because you understand why I'm laughing, because it's we're not going to be able
futile,
to
right?
we're not going to be able to solve these problems. We can put a patch, we can put a band-aid, sure, you can put a band-aid here or there, but long term we won't be able to really, even the good things we try to do, going green or planting trees like you say, or we're not going to be able to do these things without cooperating. And in order to cooperate globally, we need a change of perception. We actually need to go through an upgrade on the inside. And I saw a minute ago, who was there in the, yeah, Tinkle Tink in the chat threw in something interesting. Says this all begs the question: who's pulling the strings? And that's a good question
It
to
really does
ask.
beg the question.
It
It's a
does
great
beg the
question. Yeah.
question, and and from Kabbalah's perspective, it's very clear. You learn that from day one in Kabbalah, that all of nature is a single system. And it's clearly a single system. So when we're asking why things happen, we don't even need to think about some higher force, godly force, or something like that. These are definitions, they exist in Kabbalah, but we need to better understand what they mean. So Bala Sulam tells us in a very down to earth manner, look, nature, it's very simple. Nature is one thing, it's one system. And when you're asking who's pulling the strings, or in other words, why is all of this happening? You need to ask yourself, what is nature's goal? What is nature's plan? Because all of it is part of nature's program. The thing that really, um, I'm very I like science, right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, it's like it's the I like the empirical kind of view of science on reality, and of course, this is very compatible with the wisdom of Kabbalah. But the thing that I think we tend to forget, even in scientific circles. This is something that comes up a lot in my conversations with our friend, physicist Dr. Meir Shimon, that physicists and other scientists, doesn't matter, all scientists easily forget that the little thing they're researching, that tiny fragment speck of reality that they're now putting their whole energy and their whole world into, and writing PhDs on it and spending years and grants and resources, they easily forget that that fragment is connected to everything else. There is no biology, cosmology, psychology, physics. These are discernments and fragmentations and segmentations that
We've
we've made.
compartmentalized them all.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
exactly.
We did it,
Yeah.
guys. Come on, let's remember. Nature is one thing. It isn't a bunch of many things that are connected or not connected. We don't know. No, it's a single system. And because it's too hard for us to look at all of it as a whole, we don't have that mindset. We don't have that analytical capability. In order to employ our analytical capabilities, we have to dissect nature to fragments and fragments and fragments and investigate each fragment individually. Sure, of course, yes, we have to do that if we want to research nature. But at the same time, we also have to remember that it's one thing. Reality is one, nature is one. Nature's laws are all interconnected, and it doesn't matter if you call it psychology or physics or biology. It's all one thing. And so everything that's happening to us, this whole global development and the global dissonance that we're witnessing in our own evolution is also part of the same system. And that's the kind of questions that we want to ask ourselves if we want to answer who's pulling the strings. Like our friend here says in the chat, we need to ask ourselves, what is nature doing here? What is nature creating that we are part of? What is nature evolving that we are part of? This whole thing is one program and we're part of it. What's our place in it? That's the question we want to ask if we want to understand where,
Right.
who's pulling the strings. Yeah, I went
It's
here
so easy.
on a
No, it's
rant
great
here,
because it's
rant
so
about
it's
science.
so
Yeah.
easy. It's so easy to get sucked into your job and then into your family and then forget that you're even living on planet Earth. We went to some like rural place in San Antonio with the family, and you go out at night and you can
Oh, that
see
was last
a lot
week
of
when you were
stars.
out
Yeah,
of out
yeah.
of touch. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
So it's like, you're in the country, but you get to see a lot of the stars. And then, you hear your 4-year-old little girl like, wow, look at all the stars. Like, what's actually going on? They're building a picture of where it is that they are. And even for us, what am I, 34 now? I need that reminder. I go outside, I look at the stars, like, oh yeah, I'm on planet Earth. I'm floating around. You have all those thoughts like we always love to talk about and get into because it really brings you back down to like what's going on. Is my job important? Is my family important? Why was I even born? Let's get all the way down. Why was I even born? Why am I even looking at this guy? Why do I want to? Why is
Yeah.
everything around me on fire? Why do I?
Hmm.
So you're right, and that's why I read that the UN chief he declared it. What did he say? He said we're either going to have a
Oh,
collective.
right. He said
Oh, we
collective
need collective
suicide.
action or
He's
collective suicide. Right. That's
Yeah,
how he said it. You
harsh
saw it.
words.
So
Uh,
yeah.
uh,
So
uh,
collective suicide is like, wait a second, I don't want to die. Right. That's I don't know.
no, but
What do
here
you?
here you go. I mean there you go. We just we dealt with the question, isn't global unity an impossibility? Isn't it a utopia? And there you go. At the same time,
Right.
the UN chief, or
Right.
what was it? The UN chief, the UN general secretary,
Chief.
something,
Yeah. Chief
whatever.
something. Yeah.
And he says, look, it's either collective suicide or collective action. That was basically the headline that I read, right?
Yeah.
So this is this is the craziest thing. I think this is going to become so clear to us. Not just to us who are, we look at it from a Kabbalistic perspective, and that's why we're interested in the world and in what's happening. And we part of what we do in looking at ourselves and the world is connecting the dots. I'm saying I think this is going to become evident mainstream. I think it's going to become so clear that yes, we're just like the Don't Look Up film.
The
The
what?
Don't Look Up.
Oh, don't look up. I was just thinking that as soon as you said that. Yeah,
The
yeah. Like,
I
bring us some good news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think the dissonance is going to become that clear. It's going to be just like there's some meteor that's coming and everyone knows, and they're like, I don't know. Like, what do we do with it? I don't, because
Collective suicide?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like that's where it's going. And the dissonance here is what is so interesting spiritually. from a spiritual perspective, that is what's interesting here. That we're going to see, help me out here. What I'm trying to say is this: we're going to see our own inability to change. We're going to see how it's very clear that we have to run things differently. It's very clear that in order to run things differently, we have to somehow cooperate, collaborate, consider each other's well-being, move together, and find some synchrony between us. And yet we're unable to, or we're trying to just push that, not deal with that, not do it. We're having a very hard time doing that switch. And that switch is an inner switch in the human mind and heart, in human consciousness. That is already a spiritual switch shift that needs to happen. It's a spiritual gear shift that humanity needs, without which I don't see anything really changing.
Well, because I can identify a lot more with, collective suicide, collective action. If I'm somehow not swept up into that, then I see, the default reaction is kind of being like, all right, well, let's just kind of, wait for everything to blow up. And then, when we start over, we'll just, then we'll do it better. It's a lot harder to stop the moving train than it is to.
Right.
Well, I don't know what the other side of that,
No, but
you can't stop a moving train.
Right? Yes. Yeah. You know what, yeah, no, I mean, we're talking very, in a very kind of sociological sort of perspective today. But if we want to go a little
we are.
more spiritual conversation, down the rabbit hole a little
deeper
bit.
Or upper.
Deeper, yeah, let's call it deeper. If we want to go deeper down the rabbit hole, it's so crazy what's happening right now. I mean, we're basically, why monkeypox right now? Why so soon? Why so quickly? Another thing,
Right.
Because, and who's pulling the strings? What is nature's doing? We are living in a program. We've already established that it's a single program, right? Nature is one thing. Hence, everything that's happening in nature and everything that's happening to us, humans, on planet Earth, is interconnected. There's nothing that happens without connection to the rest of the system. So the whole system is doing something. Now, when we are seeing something like monkeypox eruption, we're staring at the whole system doing something to us. There's a reason why there's more and more global threats, because we are gradually revealing that we exist in a single program. That's gradually what I would say is happening. We're being shown this interconnection, that all we're being forced to get to grips with the idea that nature is one. All of nature and all humans, the whole thing, the whole cosmos is one thing. And if we want to be on good terms with it, we're going to have to enter some sort of like a sympathetic resonance. You know that thing that happens.
I've never heard that term,
when you
I
have
can understand what it means.
When you have sympathetic resonance is like when you have like a tuner, like a fork tuner. How's it called?
Mm-hmm.
I think
tuning
it's called
fork.
Tuning fork. Yeah, in English. Yeah, that's how it's called in English. So so when you have one vibrating at a certain frequency,
it vibrates the other one.
It vibrates the other one. So we're going to need to enter some sort of sympathetic resonance of sorts with the rest of the system. And that means we're going to have to see and experience and become part of how nature works like a single program, a single thought, Kabbalists call it, right? The thought. We're living in a thought, in a single thought. And we're part of this thought. And as humans, we have a unique conscious observation on that thought, that other elements of nature might not have. And it's funny because this whole transformation, this whole global transition that we're talking about, it's like it has two levels. You can talk about it on two levels, right? Because on one hand, you can say, look, we just can't imagine how better the world will be if everyone just have what they need. Just that. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine living in a world where everyone has their basic needs met. Food, water, housing, medicine, education, something like that. Even just that. Even just that. That if we begin to take care of that as a species, just think about how different a humanity this is as opposed to what we're used to. We will be emulating like the cells in our body or in every organism that make sure that oxygen goes to the whole body, because if the body suffers, every cell ultimately suffers. If we just get that going, even just that, we're going to be living in a so much better world that we can't even imagine. Crime rates will go down, and just the air will be filled with
We can't imagine. That's why it seems unrealistic. But
right,
you do see, there's a feeling
like
like if everyone already has all of their needs, then it's already a completely different world. Like if you just say,
completely
you
different
just said,
world.
imagine the world. Nothing else in this perception that I have right now, the world that I see fits in that world where everyone has what they
Yeah,
need. I mean, the houses are different because they're built differently because we're focusing on everyone having everything they need. Food is, it's just a different world
everything.
already.
I mean,
Yeah,
just think about we can take any example here and develop it, and it'll take at least an hour because every area of life becomes an example here. Because once
exactly.
you change that direction, everything else changes as well. Like even
Just like the entire system of nature, right?
exactly. I mean, take whatever crime. We talked about. I mentioned crime rate, so it came up. So, I mean, take crime, right? One way or another, today's systems that are dealing with crime are motivated by making money, because that's how
Yes.
basically how everything works.
Everything
That
works. Yeah.
has direct influences on what happens to everyone who's incarcerated, everyone who we consider a criminal. No one is the motivation is not healing crime. We're not working seriously with all our mind and efforts and resources to heal society, to prevent these situations from unfolding, to stop breeding violence, to stop
Even
breeding
though there are
crime.
such experiments and programs in Nordic countries, I think it's Switzerland and stuff, they have these kinds of practices,
There's
but it's
and
not
there's always
mainstream.
exceptions, of course. I'm
Always
generalizing here,
exceptions.
but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that the profit motive that's embedded into all of these systems by direct extension harms our ability to actually
Yeah.
heal as a society. It's not the primary goal. And if you have a society that is moving towards global unity, just moving towards that, not even just putting that as a goal, that's the one thing humanity needs to do. Now, the other aspect of global unity is that, so that's the earthly aspect we talked about. Things will be better, the world will get better, but the real change is a change of heart, a change of mind, an upgrade of human perception. And for those who are asking, okay, so what does nature want to do? What does nature want to teach us? What does nature that's what nature wants to do. Nature doesn't have a
Well,
problem to
you
create a
should ask,
balance.
what do you
Yeah.
want? You should say, what does nature want to do? What do you want? I want to feel good, and I want to be comfortable, and I want to have all my every desire fulfilled.
And
Great,
endlessly
that's what nature
fulfilled.
wants too.
That's what nature wants to exactly. Yeah. But nature, nature shows us on lower levels of forms of life that there's no problem to create balance. Nature knows how to do it. There's no problem to create balance in ecosystems. There's no problem to create
Right.
balance inside organisms. Nature knows how to do it.
Well, we
Somehow,
unbalance, and then we can watch and we say, oh, look how nature rebalanced, like the
right.
wolves in the stream. Yeah,
Yes,
nice.
exactly. So nature it's a program that does balance. That's literally what nature is. to a great extent.
Right. Right.
With us, nature as if makes an exception. Oh, these
As if, yeah.
humans, for some reason, it looks to us as if like we can just ruin this planet, kill each other, and just ruin the whole world. And that's a very unique, it indicates that our path towards balance is uniquely different from all the other forms of life that we can perceive. That's where nature really wants to take us. We have to be consciously involved in getting to balance. We are, unlike the rest of nature, we're not automated towards balance. We're not programmed towards balance. There's a latitude that's left for us to move towards balance of our own accord. And by that, we gain the mind of nature. We become like the balancing force of nature. And that's why nature is pulling the strings. Tinkle Tinkle, or whoever asked that. Thank you for that
Thanks,
question.
Tinkle.
All right.
Thanks,
I think thank you, Chris. I think we. How do we wrap this up? I see we're a minute past.
I have
past
something.
the hour
I have
here.
something that you
Okay.
inspired,
Go for it.
because I felt myself being another, just a little ant in this. By the way, there's some research that's showing ant colonies behave eerily like neural networks. Just
Right.
another way that
It's
nature is showing us, like, all these things are
fascinating
just
stuff.
one on top of
Yes.
another, and it's like nature screaming, "Get the picture already! Get it together.
Yeah.
Look all around." It's like
Yeah.
the walls are closing, and nature's, every time it moves in closer, it's like, "You get it now?" And we're like, "No," and another one, not yet.
So true.
So we're getting there, but it's
Yeah.
so true. But that's one thing. Like, I want a good life, but then there's also, which I feel like is necessary, each person has within them this yearning to understand, like, who made me, where did I come from, what am I supposed to do. So yes, you will have a good life if we can get it together, but you're not just having a good life living, with your feet on some green grass and in a house with, and the kids and the plane. You're connecting to your source, to the thing that made you, and to the thing that wanted to show you all these things.
The source of life itself.
A person can be fulfilled by that. Even just that thought is, it's like, you're built to be curious for that. And so it's not just a good life, it's also a special inner connection to that thought, like you said. And that I like that. I like that direction. I'm willing.
Oh, great conversation, brother. So
Fun.
happy
Yeah.
that we have this time together, and with everyone here with us. This is exciting because we know that the message, nature's message, really expressed through Kabbalists, but at the end of the day, it's nature's message. It's gradually echoing and reverberating, and I see the people here as the people who are kind of hear it first, in a way, kind of the early adopters of the new mankind, or something like that.
Totally. So
that's what we're doing. Yes, that's what we're doing here, folks. Changing the game, or changing ourselves to match nature's game, however you want to call it. Thank you, everyone.
One Thursday at a time.
Yes, one Thursday at a time. We will be here next Thursday as well, 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all for being with us, and we will wish safe travels for Seth, who left us with this beautiful song. So check this out. See you next Thursday.
To be
just to hunt in a field that is blessed, and to come on with you and rest.
Masked up, gotta block the call. Masking out my heart from egoistic thoughts. Learning all the lessons that this pressure gave us. Wanna save myself, I gotta save my neighbors. Slowly recognizing egoistic nature. Showing us connection is the only savior. We gon' come together, plow these fields of hatred. All is one with sowing seeds of love relations.
To shatter these walls, to shackle this heart from the chains of time. Then we soar through oceans in the sky. Oh, through your cold, to be in love with you, watch you with a bird's eye. See the world is filled with you. Just to run in a field that is blessed, then to come home with you and rest. Just to hunt in a field that is blessed, then to come home with you and rest.
Only love can save us. Viruses, the hatred, unity gon' vaccinate us. True immunity from all the things that separate us. Everything is only for the good, it's all to change us. Yeah, so with tears and we reaping joy. Ego is the evil seeking to destroy. Education covering the hate with love. Revelation blessings raining from above.
Just to hunt in a field that is blessed, and to come